Okay, guys, so whenever we're trying to find rate of change, the first thing we have to do is make our coordinates. So these give us our x values. We need to find our y values. So for this first one, we need our x. So when x is 0, y is 0. So that coordinate is 0, 0. Then we come to pi over 2. Pi over 2 is right here. Go up to my graph. So that would be pi over 2, 1. Then we come to our next set and we have negative 2 pi is 0. And then we have negative pi over 2 is negative 1. Okay, so that's those two coordinates. And then on this side we have pi over 2 is also 1 again. And then 3 pi over 2 comes down here to negative 1. So that's how you make your coordinates, guys. Once you have your coordinates, you just find your slope. So for the first one, we had our two coordinates. We have x1, y1, x2, y2. So y2 minus y1, 1 minus 0 over x2 minus x1, pi over 2 minus 0. Very easy. 1, anything minus 0 is itself. Okay, but we can't leave it that way. We can't have a fraction in our denominator, so we need to flip it. So we're going to end up multiplying by the reciprocal, 2 over pi. Anything times 1 is itself. So that answer would be 2 over pi. We just flipped it and multiplied by 1 over 1 because that's what this became. Okay, so that's the first one. Our second one, same thing. We have our coordinates that we found on our graph, x1, y1, x2, y2, and then use your slope formula, negative 1 minus 0 over my x's, negative pi over 2 minus negative 2 pi. Remember your double negatives here, guys, okay? It's a negative minus another negative. Okay, and we get negative 1 over, but here we have a fraction, guys, so we are going to have to get a common denominator. Okay, I have 1 and 2, so the common denominator is going to be 2. So I get negative pi over 2, and I'm going to have, if I change this to a 2, this becomes a 4, and I get 4 pi over 2. Which reduces to 2 pi over 2, or 2 pi over 1, so we know it's the same thing. Two negatives make a positive. So we have negative 1 plus 4 pi over 2, which is 3 pi over 2. Okay, so negative 1 divided by 3 pi over 2. And again, we have it. We have to multiply by our reciprocal. So I get negative 1 over 1 times the reciprocal, 2 over 3 pi. Multiply straight across, and I get negative 2 over 3 pi. All right, and we have our last one. So we have x1, y1, x2, y2, y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. So this is nice. We already have our denominators the same, so we can just subtract. 3 pi minus 1 pi is 2 pi over 2, and that just cancels, so we don't need to do the reciprocal. We just get 2 over pi, and it's negative 2 over